No, so I went to Southern California, and when I was down there, I ran a shop. I was shop foreman behind the table saw. I think at one point, these sheets were, I think they were 45 pounds each, MDF, melamine, and I would run 70 sheets a day through the table saw, manage the shop, mark up all those pieces as to what they were. When I left there, Salvador came up to me and he goes, "You know what? It jokes me up again that I can make this kind of difference without knowing it and stay committed to it." He's respected me the day I walked into that shop. And I asked him why. He called me by my name. How absurd is that? That's how brown people who contribute so much to this country are treated. And look at what we're doing to them now. They are the backbone of this country. Which is another place, if I get bailed out, I make enough money on YouTube, whatever it is, I want to document the brilliance of the brown people in this country. And I'm not talking about the college educated, I'm not talking about the engineers, I'm talking about the fucking baristas, I'm talking about the taco flippers at Taco Bell. There's a place in Beverly. Now, if you know anything about the Enneagram, you will know how far I have come if you know what a 5 is. I was unable to express feelings forever, and I dedicated a lifetime of learning how to express feelings and having them. Miraculous. But anyway, there's this one woman at La Victoria, excellent restaurant, and you should see her prepare the food. I go in there, I'm fascinated. She's up looking at the menu and she's like doing this shit, and, it's all ending up in the boxes and it's going out, and it's mind-boggling. Why can't she afford a house? She is working hard. She does what she does brilliantly. And I'd like to document these people, present them to the world. It's like, no, these people are working hard. They deserve full benefits, medical care, and the ability to buy a house, afford a house. I always strive to be better. So when I was down in Southern California running a shop, we did a lot of commercial work. We did a lot of offices, and so we did some high-end work. But I'd pretty much maxed out my skills and ability. There wasn't anything I could do. I loved doing round shit. We used to get a lift of like black walnut in. And when the shop closed, I would take all of those sheets out. And I would line the shop with them, and I'd find the sheets that matched, and So when they manufacture them, they're peeling a tree, and it's all grain matched and book matched, and the sheets are that way as well. But of course, after getting stacked into for delivery and all that, they'd get mixed up. So I would take all those 70 sheets and I'd have them lined around the shop, and I would just study and look for the grains, and I would find 3-4 sheets that, that tree rolled down that wall. It was gorgeous. And I'd take those and save those for my doors. And then I'd start ripping up my sides and my backs and my, anything that was exposed out of the maple. And then when it got to the doors, I'd pull out my select sheets, and I'd make all the cabinets look like one tree rolled right down there. So I was good at what I was doing, and I loved it. But I lost the challenge. So what I did next is I found a guy that does Japanese-style timber framing. The oldest wooden structure in the world is like 1,300 years old, and it's in Japan. We're talking about a timber frame structure that did not use metal fasteners. And I'm talking joinery that was staggering. And, we were in the middle of Nevada City, out in the middle of nowhere, off the grid. We had an outhouse, and we had an old Army generator to fire up the shop. Which was an interesting time in itself, because we would, depending on the draw, you had to adjust the generator. So when it was getting time to mill, we're using the planer, we're using the bandsaw, we're using the joiner, and we're doing all of this. We're talking heavy equipment because we were using timbers that were 14, 16 feet long and 8 by 8, 10 by 10. So we would fire up the generator, and then would fire up all the equipment that we were going to use, and we were going to leave on for 4 or 5 hours at a time, because once we fired up all the equipment, we had to go back to the generator and adjust the ohms and get it all balanced so that, it was generating the power that we were drawing. And then we would bust our ass for 4 or 5 hours just humping these logs around and running them through the equipment. Some of the hardest work I had ever done. And we actually did John Peters and Peter Goober's office. They were the highest paid producers at the time, I believe. They came out with Batman, Gorillas in the Mist. I mean, no expense spared. I have always challenged myself. I have always gone for going better. Did that for a couple of years. I think I moved to Colorado after that. Well, I don't know. You get 60 and there's so much that happens in your life. I always forget about time and lose timelines anyway. But I had blown out a knee but anyway, I blown out my knee skiing, and then finished it off on a roof, jumping valleys, and crashed and burned, almost fell 3 stories. I'm getting old. I was still fully capable of doing it, and I got a lot of friends that have done it forever, but they all have blown out rotator cuffs and bad knees, and they just killed themselves. So I did architectural associate's degree in architectural drafting. Loved it. Was good at it. I loved writing Autolist programs and automating AutoCAD, because I couldn't stand, it's absurd to use automated. Even way back then, drawing lines and circles, if you're not writing Autolist programs and building libraries and all that. But the most fun was the list programs. I also liked writing macros in Excel. But that was part of Corinthian Schools, which was sued and put out of business because of deceptive sales practices and predatory lending to get people in schools. They got sued, and a lot of people got their money back. And but no, mine was outside of the statute of limitations, so I got defrauded and nobody cared. Couldn't really make a living at it. I did it a few times, and then I kept going back to construction and trying something else, associated project management. And then I landed kitchen and bath design. I was fucking good at it. Loved it. Of course, I love customers and people and all of that, and started my own business and was actually doing fairly well. And then 08 came around. Bought a house right around there in 08 as well. So, just got saddled with a house and got laid off. Yeah, I was unemployed for nearly 2 years. And Obama extended the unemployment benefits because it was a fucking disaster. But I lost 2 years of building a business, and then at that point, I how to get back into it, and starting from scratch again. And then cousin that is part owner of Bob's Discount Furniture offered me a position for sales. And I loved it. It was social, it was people, I was talking to people, I was selling shit. I wasn't top dog because I was ethical and didn't lie to people and didn't do, there were some people that they, I couldn't believe they let them stay on the floor. But, they're owned by Bain Capital, so they don't care about thieves and unethical practices as long as they're making sales. And there was some scum on the floor. So I was median. I always joke with the managers, I strive for mediocrity. But, did well at that. But, again, affordable housing, because we had a 2-person double income and supporting the house. It wasn't so bad, but not shortly after that, I called it quits with the ex. I was 17 years of being beat up by a nasty, vile narcissist. I'd had enough, and I finally walked away. What was most important to me was shared custody of my son. So I walked away from the house. I walked away from any money she owed me. She owed me money. It still didn't work out because she fought me tooth and nail over custody of Daryl. I finally won that. She got the legal because I was just tired of fighting. But I walked away from equity I built in the house and affordable housing. And all that time, my wage wasn't going up, but my rent certainly was. So, I got whacked. Actually, the one area I did do well was COVID. But I got whacked by the Corinthian school scam and couldn't make a living and still had a student loan of which I still have defaulted, and they may or may not ever come after me on that. I've got taxes that are, it's just all a mess, and I'm not the only one. And I made some stupid mistakes, sure. But am I an idiot? Am I not able to produce? Am I not worth keeping on this planet? Respectably. A house, an income that I can take adventures and own a boat. A boat is it's where I have good bonding time. Daryl and I love the boat. Kid was docking a boat at 11 years old, running in an open ocean at 9, 10 years old. Kid was good. I'll talk about that some other time. But I worked hard all my life. I took on new challenges. I was always trying to advance myself. And every time I turned around, I was getting whacked down. The Corinthian schools things, the 08 crisis, and I'm sure there was other shit that I'm not remembering. But at every turn, I got knocked down. And this whole time, wages are getting suppressed more and more and more. So right now, I don't know if I can even make 50 grand that I was making back in 85 something. So I worked hard, I played hard, and here I am. I can't take a shower, I don't have housing, so what the fuck am I gonna do? And this Uber thing is just, I'm running the truck in the ground, I'm not keeping up with maintenance. It's gonna be, if I don't do something, produce something, it's gonna be break and I'm gonna be on the street. I want my boy back. I want to make a living. Bail me out. Give me a task to do. Give me a direction ahead. I'll do that too. You see me out and about. Give me a joy to the world. Peace and love and harmony.